All right, I'm gonna let everybody in and then turn it right over to Katie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Housing and Residence Life Family Orientation. We're joined here today by Katie Cordwell, who will give you some information about housing and residence life, what the procedures will be for your student for the fall, as well as Brian Schlein from the Health Center, just in case there are any questions about COVID vaccine policies and exemptions. We are also joined today by two of our orientation leaders and myself from New Student and Family Programs. So like I said, my name is Catherine Knaust, New Student Family Programs, and I work with our family. So can my OLs introduce themselves really quickly?
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace. I'm the Student Director for Family Engagement, and I'm a rising senior and nursing major.
Hi, everyone. I'm a returning orientation leader. My name is Samaya. I'm a graduate, so I just graduated this past May. My major was psychology.
Excellent. So if you have questions about the student perspective of housing, they're here to help you as well. Throughout the presentation, you can submit questions via the chat function. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a little speech bubble that says chat. Feel free to type your questions in there and I will ask them to our presenters. So with that, I will hand it over to Katie from Housing and Residence Life.
Thanks, Catherine. So hi, everyone. Like Catherine said, my name is Katie Cordwell. I'm the Assistant Director for Business and Administrative Services with Housing and Residence Life. So I manage our contracting, deposit, assignments process for the university. So some information about campus experience and what this is going to look like. So move-in for new students is going to be spread out over 2 days, Wednesday, August 25th for students with the last names A through M, and Thursday, August 26th for students with the last names N through Z. Students will be able to choose their move-in time and can change their move-in date if that date does not work for them. Instructions on how to do that will be sent with their housing assignments. When you live on campus, on all of our floors, we have resident assistants, which are sophomore plus students that live on the floor with your students. So they build and facilitate community through structured and developed engagement, such as programming, forming connections with your students. And then they also help support students by serving as a resource for solution finding, connecting them to resources available on campus, and helping them form bonds with their fellow floor mates. Here's some information about living on campus. So Brian will be able to speak more to this, but there is the vaccine requirement. So students will be required to either be vaccinated or have an approved exemption to live on campus. The review and approval process is operated out of the health center. So HRL will not have information on a student's vaccine status. Roommates. If students did not indicate a roommate request on their application, they will have one randomly assigned, and students will complete a roommate agreement during their first 2 weeks of living together. We don't actually have students fill out a questionnaire of, that they like to live in a quiet space, they wake up early, because we find that it changes for a lot of students when they live on their own for the first time coming to college. So we really focus on that roommate agreement where they work with their roommate to determine a shared set of ground rules that they will abide by while living together. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the provided furniture in our spaces. So all of our residence hall spaces where our incoming freshmen live have an extra long twin bed, desk, chair, dresser / closet or wardrobe, and a micro fridge. All of our apartment bedrooms have the same furniture as residence halls, but a full-size refrigerator in the kitchen instead of a micro fridge. The one exception to that is Carroll and Marshall halls have double extra long beds, not the twin extra long beds. Our buildings have multiple safety measures in place, so only students living in a building will have card access to that building. So a student's one card will allow them to swipe into the front entrance, as well as their elevators and stairwells. We do have front desks at the front of each building that are staffed 24/7 by either our student staff or security personnel. And while students are allowed to have guests, they are required to be signed in and be accompanied by their host at all times. When thinking about what to pack while moving onto campus, things you'll want to make sure to bring: bedding and bath towels, kitchen supplies like plates, cups, microwavable dishes, single cup coffee makers are allowed, electronics like an alarm clock, a UL approved power strip with a circuit breaker. We do not allow just plain extension cords, so you'll want to make sure to bring that. A TV and a Roku or streaming device. Our cable, which we provide, is streaming cable, Comcast. So you will need a streaming device if you're looking to hook up to an actual TV. If you have a smart TV, that should be able to work. And then a laptop, health and hygiene, personal toiletries, shower caddy, hair dryer, first aid kit, any medicine that you may deem necessary. Laundry and cleaning. There are laundry rooms available in all of our residence halls that students can pay to use using their one card, and then any school supplies that may be needed. Things that we want to make sure not to bring: weapons, candles and incense, any cooking appliances with exposed heating elements, no microwave or refrigerator since we do provide them, no bed risers, and no pets except for fish. Fish tanks cannot be bigger than 10 gallons and may not have electrical equipment. If your student has a need for an emotional support animal, they can register through Accessibility and Disability Services. Then we work with that office to get that approved. While we are requiring vaccination, we will still have isolation and quarantine housing available in case there are any COVID-19 cases on campus. So there'll be designated space for isolation and quarantine. All of the spaces will be single occupancy, and meals will be arranged in collaboration with our dining services staff. University Health Center will do some initial outreach, and then residence life staff will always be available for support. So some important things to remember: room assignments will be sent on August 6th to your student's TU email address. Move-in dates are August 25th and 26th, so that students are here and ready to participate in Welcome to TU events throughout that weekend. And then classes start on August 30th. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I believe Brian's going to give a quick update on some information about the health center.
Thanks, Katie. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So this is just a quick reminder from the University Health Center that vaccinations are required, or an exemption, either a medical or religious exemption. All of those must be completed and sent to us by August 9th. So please remember to submit that information. We will be verifying that information at move-in. So again, August 9th is the deadline to be fully vaccinated. That includes the 2-week waiting period after a final dose of whichever vaccine is provided, and or submitting your exemption for medical or religious exemptions.
Excellent, thank you. We did get a question via the chat. If a student has indicated that they're interested in a learning community, is there anything they need to do to make sure that happens? They haven't heard anything back about that.
So they will hear about acceptance into a learning community right before assignments go out. The information welcoming a student to a learning community typically goes out about 2 to 3 days before formal assignments go out on August 6th. So there's nothing additional that you need to do. We're doing lots of work behind the scenes to figure out who can be in which community, registering them from classes, and making sure that we have everything set up before talking with the students.
Excellent. And a follow-up question, do you know where SAGE participants will be housed this year, and have they been alerted to their acceptance?
So Brian, were you about to say something?
No,
Yeah.
I was just unmuting myself in preparation for any questions.
No, that's good. I just didn't want to cut you off. So SAGE community, there are a few different ways that SAGE works. You can be a part of the SAGE program and not living on the SAGE residential floor. So if you are selected for the SAGE residential floor, that is typically housed in Newell Hall. And then I do not know if the actual SAGE program has contacted students, letting them know that they've been accepted to the program, but the actual status for living on the floor won't be notified until that same time as all the other learning communities.
Great. There's been several questions for Brian. Where does a student send the proof of vaccination?
Sure, great question. So we have a vaccination web portal that you can use. It's towson.edu/vaxverify. So VAX is VAX, verify. It'll require the student to log in with their Towson University login and password. They'll need to upload the documentation of their vaccine. And just as a reminder, it does need to include their full name, their date of birth, which vaccine they received, and it must show either 1 dose for Johnson & Johnson or 2 doses for all other vaccines, and must include the dates that those vaccines were given. If somebody doesn't have access to their vaccine verification card, we actually have a link on our university website where you can create an account through Maryland Immunization. That'll help you to pull your information if you're from Maryland. If you're from another state, you might need to contact that health department. But we do have to have official documentation. That could be that you went to CVS and they gave you a printout. Some places with pharmacies are sending 2 different documents. You can send us both of those documents at the same time so that we can verify. But please don't send us anything until you've completed your 2nd dose, if it's a 2-dose vaccine, or if it's Johnson & Johnson, you can send as soon as you have received your 1st dose.
Thank you. I saw a question come through. What is Welcome to TU again? And I'll handle that. So Welcome to TU is a program that is the last step of your student's orientation process. It begins when they move in, which for freshmen, again, August 25th or 26th. They won't miss anything if they are assigned to the 26th. So please don't call Katie saying, move my student in earlier. They will get all of the same programming no matter when they move in. So they'll move in on the 25th or 26th, and then there's programming through August 29th. And so you want your student to put that weekend on their calendar, because your first year student, if you have a freshman student, will have mandatory events for much of the weekend. Your transfer students will have a lot of opportunities to engage over the weekend. And so we highly encourage a lot of that programming. So plan for your student to be busy, busy, busy. August 25th through 29th for Welcome to TU. It includes updates about academic advising, and then about things they need to be successful on campus. Safety, meeting with some of our professional staff about alcohol and other drugs, sexual assault and Title IX. They get a lot of information over that weekend. We've got a question about deposits. We've been trying to put our deposit down, but we keep getting an error message. Are we doing this wrong?
You are not doing anything wrong. It is our issue at the moment. So our deposit process is at a standstill. The system that we use is having a hard time communicating with our upgraded software. So we're in communication with all of our teams to figure out how to make sure we can get this up and running. And as soon as we do, anyone that has an outstanding deposit that they were waiting because they had a housing offer, we will send you an email saying it's up and running. You can go pay. Or if there is anyone that has submitted an application and hasn't received a housing offer yet, we will send those out as soon as that is available to us again.
Is there an individual key for each dorm room? How is each room locked and secured once you're inside the building with the one card?
That's a great question. So yes, all of our bedrooms do have a key. The one exception to that is Towson Run Apartments, and that is typically where upper class students live, and some transfer students do live there. Those physical bedroom doors do not have a key to the bedroom, but every other door does. And at least for Towson Run, their front door still has a lock, so it's only the residents of the room that has access to it.
Great. We heard that learning communities move from year to year. Do you know where learning communities have been assigned for this upcoming year?
Learning communities do move around, but they stay within all of the same buildings. So we have learning communities in the Glen, in Newell, in Residence Tower, in Barton, and in Douglas. And it just depends upon what buildings are open, because we have been doing a lot of renovations of our buildings over the past couple of years, but they're in all of our residence halls.
Great. And then I've got a few questions about move-in dates and times. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. How do we pick a time for move-in dates and times? And then if they're scheduled for a date or time they're unable to do, how can they change that?
So it'll be available for your student on the housing portal, the Student Housing Gateway, but it won't be available until after assignments go out. And there'll be instructions within that assignment email on how students can sign up for their time. So they'll go to the Housing Gateway, click a link, and they will select their time based upon spaces that are available. And then if they cannot make it, they would go through the same process and change what day they would like to come based upon what time spaces are available. So they'll be able to do all of that through our Student Housing Gateway, and detailed instructions will be sent once the process is available after assignments are released.
Thank you. This one's for Brian. What if a student has a second dose scheduled for August 8th?
As soon as you complete that second dose on August 8th, go ahead and upload your vaccine verification. You will not be considered to be fully vaccinated until 14 days after that final dose, which is August 22nd. So as long as you're not moving in before that date, you should be good to go. Again, we want to make sure that you get that done as soon as possible. So again, as soon as you finish that second dose on August 8th, go ahead and upload it for us, and the university will consider you fully vaccinated 14 days after that final dose.
Thank you. This is one that we get every year. Are the rooms air conditioned?
Yes, all of the spaces on campus do have air conditioning. Our last two buildings that were holdouts were renovated 2 years ago. So every space does have air conditioning.
Great. What happens if a student decides they no longer want to live on campus? Do we owe until December or until May?
It will depend upon when they decide that. So right now, students are able to cancel their housing if they decide today that they would not like to live on campus. And the only thing that will be lost is your housing deposit. So the housing deposit is non-refundable. But you won't be charged, or your housing charges, I should say, will be removed because they've been posted on students' bursars counts already, will be removed, so you won't owe anything for the fall. And then we do have a refund schedule if a student cancels during a semester based upon when they cancel. So if they cancel within the first 8 days of the semester, they would receive 80% of their housing back. If they cancel within the first 22, 60%, and then none after that. That's the same as the university refund policy. So we follow that same calendar, and then that would be just for the semester. And housing is for the full academic year. So when you cancel for the fall, you are canceling for the spring as well.
Excellent. Can you explain how students are assigned to apartments versus residence halls?
So apartments are utilized the most by our upper class students. So they are able to select their own spaces as part of a room selection process that occurs typically in April. So after they have paid their deposits, they're able to select a space, and then students are assigned by myself and my team, our incoming students, or anyone that didn't select their own space, to spaces that are available. So when we go to apartment locations, it is typically taken up by any of our continuing students that had not selected a space yet, or our incoming transfer students, and it's based upon what space remains available either from our previous students not selecting spaces or students that have canceled over the summer, because we do receive a number of cancellations. But we target those continuing and transfer students, and then our incoming freshmen are assigned to our residence halls.
When would folks expect to get the key for move-in day?
They would get it at their assigned time. So whatever time you pick to arrive based upon what space is available, you would go to our centralized check-in location, which is the South Campus Pavilion, and your student would be able to show their TUID, complete the check-in process, get their key, and go to their building to be able to move their belongings in.
Great. How quick would turnaround be for housing adjustments if you learned that your roommate situation would not work?
So for our first 2 weeks of the semester, so really once assignments go out through the first 2 weeks of the semester, we are in a room change freeze. So we do not do room changes unless in extreme circumstances during that time frame. So that we can make sure we know what spaces we have available, because we will have a number of students that just never move in, that students can complete roommate agreements. We can try and troubleshoot any issues that they may have with our resident assistants and our residence life coordinators. And then after that time, students would be able to submit a room change request, and then it'll be based upon space availability. In some years, we have lots of space available and students are able to move fairly easy. And in other years, we may not have a lot of space. So we work a little bit harder on figuring out how we can make this situation work for everyone that's inside the space.
Do parents need to stay overnight when moving their student in, or will the student be involved in programs the next day?
So as Catherine described, there is the Welcome to TU activities. So they will be involved in programs the majority of the day and evening. There will be something available on the evening that they move in. So they will have things to do and hopefully people to meet and campus to get acclimated to.
And to add to that, new student and family programs on your student's move-in day, if you're a first-year student, we'll have tables called family send-off. So we have some goodies just for the families. We hope you come talk to us to send you merrily on your way so that your students can jump right into campus. We have a few questions about the one card. So will students need to get their one card prior to move-in day?
They will not need to get their one card prior to move-in day. I believe that you will have received instructions on how to upload a photo to have for your one card so that it can be pre-printed for you and available at move-in. If for some reason you're not able to, we will have one card at our centralized check-in location that will be able to do photos and print your one card while you are there. But it's definitely much easier to upload your photo ahead of time so it can be printed and available with your key packet right at check-in.
If your student plans to attend the optional in-person orientation in a few weeks, we're negotiating potentially being able to pick up one cards then as well. So your student will certainly have the opportunity to get their one card at some point in their orientation and move-in journey. Are there limits to how many people can help me move in?
So we are requesting just 2 move-in helpers at a time, while we are limiting, the amount of students that are moving in during each check-in time. We're trying to limit the amount of guests in each building.
If someone is living in Newell Building with a Jack and Jill bathroom, does that mean it has a shower?
Yes. So all of our bathroom configurations will have a shower for students that are connected to a room, or if they're in a hallway, those would also have shower stalls for the students that are living there.
Great. And then we've got a couple questions from transfer families. Would that mean that if they are juniors, they will most likely be with freshmen?
We do work to make sure that freshmen are paired with freshmen and students who are higher than a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior are paired together. There is always a chance based upon space availability that there will be sophomore and freshmen living together, but we do try and keep our incoming freshmen living with incoming freshmen.
Great. And have students received the bill for living on campus, and when is it due?
So I know that the bursar's office was in the process of uploading all student bills, and then they will send out that information on the date that it is due, how to sign up for a payment plan if you need to, and what that may look like. For incoming students, I just want to give the disclaimer that our housing assignments are not done, and we have multiple housing rates available. So you may have a placeholder cost for housing on your account right now. And what that means is once housing assignments go out, your bill may adjust either to higher or lower, depending upon where you are assigned and what your preferences were on your application.
We have a question. Are there separate events for older transfer student during welcome days? And the answer is yes. We have plenty of events during Welcome to TU that are geared towards our transfer student so that they can meet folks who are in a similar academic and social situation as them. Katie, can you repeat move-in days for different populations?
Sure. So our Wednesday, August 25th is for students whose last name begin with A through M. And then Thursday, August 26th, our last names N through Z. And that's for all new students, transfer, freshman, FTP.
Great. And then, sorry to ask, but we have some folks asking you to repeat the limitations for number of people moving folks in and time span to move in.
Sure. So it is 2 people, 2 move-in helpers is the phrase that we are using to come and assist you. And then the time frame is our time slots will be on the half hour. So from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., students will be able to sign up for half. It's longer than a half hour. Let me explain. I'm sorry. We'll be able to sign up at things that start on the half hour with the idea that each person gets about 2 hours to complete their move-in process after they get their key.
Great. Will there be parking and unloading instructions for where to park during move-in day?
Yes. So once you get your assignment, we will have detailed instructions on how to get to our centralized location. And then at your centralized location, you will get a parking pass. And on the back of the parking pass, we'll give you direct instructions on how to get to your building's unloading zone, and then how to get to the permanent parking after that unloading has been completed.
Here's another question we get every year. If you have a private bathroom, do you need to supply things like toilet paper, or is it school supplied?
That is a great question, and you will need to supply it just because our staff won't be able to access your bathroom. So the only bathrooms that our staff are able to access to supply and to clean are bathrooms in Residence Tower, Prettyman and Scarborough, some of Newell and some of Richmond. I say that because it depends upon what room you're in, if you'll have a Jack and Jill bathroom or if you'll have a community bathroom.
Someone asked if the rooms will be single room occupancy.
The rooms will not be single room occupancy. They will be double room occupancy. However, we will not have any triples. If you've heard from years previous that we've had triples in the past, there will be no triples. It won't be larger than a double occupancy. There are some single occupancy rooms available on campus. However, those are held typically for students that have medical housing accommodation needs. So if that's you or your student, you'll want to make sure to submit that request through Accessibility and Disability Services. They're the ones that review all of our medical accommodations and then let us know what a student needs to provide them the best support.
Someone asked, how does laundry work?
Great question. So there are laundry rooms available in all of our residence halls, and students are able to use their one card to pay for those, or $1.25 for a wash and then $1.25 for a dry. And they can track when their space is, or excuse me, when their machine is available on an app so that they know when their laundry is complete.
Great. I am answering some individual questions in the chat. So if there are more questions, feel free to put them in there. In the meantime, Grace or Samaya, do you have a student perspective of living on campus?
I can go. I've always lived on campus. So as I said, I'm going to be a senior. I've always lived on campus since freshman year. And actually, I've lived on campus during the summers for orientation. But I actually live like 5 to 10 minutes from campus. But I've always lived on campus just because I think it's like a different experience. And I've loved living on campus. Freshman and sophomore year, I lived in Residence Tower. Then this past year, I lived in Marshall Hall. That's where I am currently. And I'm actually staying in this same apartment for senior year. I've always loved living on campus. I actually had housing accommodations because I have a sleeping disorder. So I had my own room freshman and sophomore year. So I was like really nervous about like making friends and everything because everybody always says like your roommate's your first friend. And I was like, I don't have a roommate, so does that mean I don't have my first friend? But I feel like living on campus is a great way to meet people. My freshman year, like pretty much immediately, everybody on my floor became like really close. We went to like all of the welcome to TU events together, which was like really great because then it's like you're going with people you know. And yeah, like we just had like I had a really good floor my freshman year. The RAs are really great resources because they're there like if you need help with anything, but then they'll also plan events at least like once a month for your floor to do things. Yeah, I love living on campus. I have never had any complaints with like my space or anything. I think it's always interesting because like I've found that no matter where people live, they always like to argue that where they live is the best building. So like I always said like Residence Tower is the best building because like the year I moved in, it had just reopened after being closed for a couple of years due to renovations. And then my friends who like lived in the Glen Towers, who like a lot of people are always like, oh, I wouldn't want to live there. They all argued that their building was the best building because like they all would get really close with their floor and stuff. So yeah, I've always found it's interesting that like even though the buildings are so differently set up, everybody always argues their building is the best building and like the best place to live.
My experience with housing is different. I'm a transfer student, so I had credits already. So I was actually able to live in Carroll when I first arrived at Towson, which is pretty great. You get your own room and a kitchen, and you have a bathroom on your side of the room. So there's 2 bathrooms in the whole suite. The school I came from previously, I lived with 6 girls, other girls total. So I think that the housing at Towson is pretty great. It's pretty well spaced. And like Grace mentioned, like once you live in a house, that'll be your place. So the students will really love wherever they are. Honestly, the RAs, they put flyers out in the buildings too. So it kind of notifies students, oh, this is happening in Towson, like we can go to this event. So there's things for them to do. So they'll enjoy what they're doing. They'll enjoy the housing.
Thanks. I think that's a good overview of what the lived experience is. In the meantime, we had some follow-up questions about laundry. Can students use coins in addition to the one card? And can students load money onto the one card, and how do they do that?
Yes to both. and they would use quarters. And then for the one card, there is onecard.towson.edu. It allows you to log on to your one card system, and that's how you would be able to load money onto your one card to be able to complete your laundry.
We have a fun question here. Can students decorate their room, and what should they use to hang things on the wall?
Students can decorate their room. You will want to be cautious about what you use so that you're not peeling off lots of paint. So students use command strips, some of the gummy tack to put things up. Anything that you would try to use that does not put holes or will rip a ton of paint off of the wall.
Great. Would a freshman who is entering college with dual enrollment or associate degree credits get upperclassmen housing or freshman housing?
It will depend upon how they're classified by admissions. So when they enroll in the university, admissions label students as either freshmen or transfer students. So if they're labeled as a transfer student, there is a chance they would be placed then in upper class housing, but if they're labeled as a freshman, they'll be placed with incoming freshmen.
Great. If a transfer student went through the housing process where he picked the residence hall floor and room, would he be all set with his assignment then?
Completely all set and done.
Excellent, thank you. Can students have a printer in their room?
Students can have a printer. We do ask that it's not a Wi-Fi printer because it can make it very difficult for everyone in the building to be able to utilize Wi-Fi. They are surprisingly great at stealing Wi-Fi from everyone. So if you are going to bring a printer, make sure that it's connected with a cord.
Another follow-up laundry question. How much does it cost to wash and dry a load of laundry?
It would be $1.25 to wash and $1.25 to load, to dry to load. So the total would be $2.50.
Excellent. How can a family contact housing privately about medical accommodations and possible misclassifications of a student?
Sure. So you can contact us through calling our office. I can drop our number inside of the chat and once I'm done talking, or send us an email. But any medical accommodation questions should go through Accessibility and Disability Services. They're the ones that review doctors' documentation and make any sort of recommendations. We just get the information from Accessibility and Disability Services saying this is what their documentation supports. Here's sort of the housing that they would need to be placed in. And they give us general things like a single occupancy bedroom, because we have single occupancy apartments where there's single bedrooms within an apartment, as well as single occupancy rooms in residence halls. So if there's actual questions about how you were evaluated, you should speak with Accessibility and Disability Services.
Oh, I love this question. What is the best way to send surprise packages to our students?
You can send them through the mail. So I will also drop in here. We have a website of addressing standards that's based upon where your student is going to be living, of how you can send them a package. And then depending upon where they're living, their mail will either go to the mailroom in the union or it will go to their building.
Great. This one's for Brian. Can we send vaccinations, I'm guessing not COVID, just standard vaccinations, from our child's doctor via email instead of the form, finding it difficult to fill in?
So we prefer that you send it directly through the TU Health portal. If you're really having issues with uploading it, you can always email us at healthcenter@towson.edu for assistance. We prefer that you send it directly through the TU Health portal because then our staff can see the records directly and go ahead and approve it within our medical software. But again, if you're having issues, please just email healthcenter@towson.edu and one of our staff will reach back out to you.
This is an interesting question about the Jack and Jill bathrooms. Would you need your card to get into the room from the bathroom, your one card, so that the other room can't get into your room?
So no, you will not. In the Jack and Jill bathrooms, you only have locks on the inside of the bathroom. So you won't be able to lock the bathroom door from your room. The reason why we're not able to do that is because of fire code. So the only time that that door is able to be locked is when there's someone actually using the restroom.
Great. I'm looking for other questions. In the meantime, Brian and Katie, can you give a quick wrap up of where to find you all and ask questions if things come up later?
Sure. So we are located in Ward and West, which is the health center and the counseling center. We're located directly next to Residence Tower. So between Residence Tower and Prettyman and Scarborough, there's lots of construction going on around us right now because we're getting a new health sciences building built outside of our building, which is super exciting for more construction. But if you can't physically come and see us, again, health center at towson.edu is the easiest way to reach us. If you have any questions about your immunization records, uploading that information, or need help with your vaccine uploads. Again, if you need to upload your COVID vaccine information, it's just towson.edu/vaxverify. If you are doing an exemption, all of our exemption information is also available online. If you search vaccination on the Towson website, you can find all of our information about exemptions with the reminder that everything is due by August 9th. I will make a plug that anybody who is submitting their vaccine verifications, we're currently doing some prize drawings for our students. The final prize is a pretty large scholarship. So please make sure to submit it. The earlier you submit your vaccine verification, the more chances you have to win. Right now, we're doing $100 dining credits for students in our vaccination program, and our final drawing will be on August 9th. So please go ahead and submit that information. You can also give us a call if you want to do so. Sometimes email is the easiest way, so we can assist you electronically.
And then for Housing and Residence Life, I did drop our contact information into the chat. So you can give us a call. We are available from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, or send us an email at housing@towson.edu. If you have a question about changing anything in an application, or canceling housing or anything like that, I would encourage you to send that via email so that we have that information in writing, so it's easier for us to reply to you and say, yes, we can do this because we have that paper trail that it was requested by you or your student. And we are available to help and assist you. We know that this is a stressful time, and we hope to make their transition to living on campus as smooth and painless as possible.
Excellent. I appreciate you all joining us. The recording of this presentation will be posted on the towson.edu/families website. That's where you'll find all of the recordings of all family orientations. It's also where you'll find general information for our families about signing up for our newsletter, about ways you can support your student. So we hope that you'll visit us there. And we hope that you'll join us for some of our remaining sessions over the next couple weeks. And we look forward to meeting those of you who are attending in-person orientation with your student. So have a great night and go Tigers.